Going live. Here we are again. I don't even know what time it is. Was it like 8 o'clock? Okay, I'm going to set you up here just for a second. How did this run out already? That's too weird. Just going to start this up so we make sure that we answer questions as appropriately. Give me a second. I'm going to wait for people to come in anyway. Actually, let's get some blanks here. Eight 12. Getting late. Here we are. Oh, 5 people here. Nice. Howdy, everybody. Who's here? Can you hear me? Howdy, everybody. Who's here? Check, check. 1, 2. Check, check. 1, 2. Check, check. 1, 2. But turn that down. Okay, not too much tonight. I don't have a build ready. I just got the crank in for the blower, but I still need to go get the circlips and all that other stuff. I somehow forgot that. Sorry. Hey, Ken. And hey, Tim. But I do have a really interesting update. So I just talked to my new machinist. And there's actually 2 machinists. So there's one that's going to do the CNC stuff. He's basically going to take the blanks from like the blank rods and drill the ends. Just generally drill them and drill the center hole or whatever. And then the second machinist is going to actually take and drill them out further and tap them. So it's going to be like giving a boost to the machinist. Too much of an echo here in my brain. Anyway. Okay. So I'm... today what I did was I actually cut all the blanks. So I literally made 200 cuts today on the new chop saw, which my buddy Steve got. It's actually Steve's saw, so... thank you to Steve for letting me use it and effectively ruin a blade. But amazingly, it does cut steel pretty well. It's not utterly amazing, but it's darn close. So, thank you to Steve for that. Anyway, so what's going to happen is the CNC machinist is going to drill the ends and then hand everything to the other guy. Now, I'm going to deliver all the blanks probably tomorrow, and he's talking of a time frame out 2 weeks. But the first guy, the CNC guy, is going to do the bulk of the work, or at least the bulk of the rods, pre-drill, and all that stuff. The second guy can have another one of his guys actually do a short-term mini run. So hopefully we're like a week away, maybe. Wouldn't that be cool? So I'm really hoping that we can do, I know I have people on the list, and I'm really hoping that I can get these made. I think that would be awesome. So I've got Sleeves that I machined, they're ready to go. Maybe a little bit of polishing would be a good idea, but other than that, they're rough, but they're gonna work just fine. Polish them up, and the sleeves are basically ready to rock. There, it's just the rods now that we're waiting on. So, questions, comments, anything going, guys? Just wanted to give you a quick update on that because I'm really excited that we can do like a small mini run and get at least some of the people that are on the list satisfied. They've been waiting a long time for tools. What else did I do today? I literally spent all day cutting things. So 200 cuts here. Only took like 6 seconds a cut. Just a zing. Great. But then to put it in, it just took a while. These, I did something silly. I'm machining these myself on my folks' lathe, but I ordered them an inch too long. So I used the chop saw again to chop off an inch, so they're better now. Questions? You guys are driving this tonight because I don't have a whole lot on the agenda other than hopefully going to bed early and then working on the shed tomorrow, I think, finally. Seal drivers, no. Do you want seal drivers? Like, for what particular? So the thing with seal drivers is it's still going to be like so incredibly specific. I mean, I guess I could effectively get a design made up and show it to the machinist and be like, hey, copy this, type of thing. Are the sleeves made from rod or tubing? It's actually aluminum tube, which is different than pipe. This is actually aluminum tube, 1 inch outer diameter, and the way that tube is measured is it's measured by the outer diameter and then the wall thickness. So this is theoretically 1 inch OD and 188 wall thickness, which gives a 624 inner diameter, which is fine for a 5/8 rod, even though 5/8 is 625, because 5/8 rod is actually less than 625 because it's threaded rod. It's a few thousandths less and it just slides right through. The 3/4 stuff is 1/8 of an inch wall thickness, 1 inch OD, so that gives you the 3/4 inner diameter. So it's aluminum tube for the sleeves. And what's nice about these is I can take the blanks, which I can get from a metal supplier, and then I have essentially 2 cuts to make. I have to cut this down, and then I have to run, and then once I have that cut on the lathe, then I put this in a box, and then I bring that whole box of however many of these over to the Bridgeport, put it in the Bridgeport, cut the keyway, and I'm good. So it's really only 2 cuts to make. And please, everybody, keep this in mind. These are modifiable, okay? There's nothing sacred about these. If you need to open it up with the Dremel, do it. If you need to shorten something, do it. You're not going to hurt my feelings. So Tim, I mean, what are you talking about for seal drivers? What are you looking for? I don't know what people would be looking for. Maybe like 394 seal drivers would be good because it's kind of a pain to, get them exactly where they need to be. Maybe, if I made something that's say 4.5 millimeters deep, then the flywheel side seal would get driven a whole lot easier. I don't know. Kind of an idea that I have to do that. I just don't know. I don't know if making such a thing would be worth anybody's while. I'd have to get it priced out and see if it's even worth it to do. Yeah, you can make seal drivers from all kinds of different stuff. PVC works. I used PVC pipe on my garden tractor on that Briggs motor. It worked great. You know, it's just PVC. It's cheap. You know, for me, I probably should have seal drivers because I do so many saws, 394s, 372s. It would make sense to have some seal drivers. I just always done it by hand and measured and called it a day. If I had a lathe right here in my basement, I would probably make myself a driver. I just never put two and two together, you know. Seal removal tools. Yeah, oh Lord. The thing with that is like, so these crank tools, although they're somewhat complex and odd because of the thread sizes, it's still just threaded rod and a couple of tapped ends. So it's not necessarily that big of a deal to do. But a seal removal tool, you're talking about moving parts and whatnot. I don't know if I could get such a thing to, again, to be a profitable item. Yeah, Frankenstein tooth puller. Cool. You know, maybe I could come up with a design. I don't know, something that would work for both. Um, I'd have to think about it. I don't know. Thinking about it. There would be a lot of pieces, and I don't know how I would get it machined economically. Yeah, the flywheel. This guy right. Yay. Maybe Ken. Who knows? Flywheel removal tool. I've definitely considered a flywheel removal tool. I'm pretty sure HL Supply has one. I thought they had one. Good suggestions though. Ken, my dental background should help. I know, Ken. I gotta come down and see your shop one day. It is thin wall PVC for the seal presses. Nice, Tim. Should make them out of aluminum. See, I like for instance the 200T seal installation tool. That thing is nice, but since I've showed the video, nobody's actually asked me for one. Like zero. Nobody's actually interested. And what I kind of figured out with these tools, if you guys have to go back to the original thread that I did on these, I figured with the crank tools, I would do an initial run of 20 kits of whatever that was at the time. I forget, but it was 20 kits, and 20. I had 20 people sign up like that. Was like, okay, I want a kit. Okay, fine. Then I suddenly had all kinds of other people that were like, I want on the list. And okay, I'll make a backup list. There was 40 people on the backup list. A few months went by. I finally got the stuff in stock. And I contacted all 20 people that were like, oh, for sure, I want a kit, you know. At that time, it was time to put up or shut up, ask those people for money. I'm pretty sure I never heard back from at least 5. Probably between 5 and 8 people paid me immediately, and some were wishy-washy and took weeks to pay. So I then went through the rest of the list, 60 people total. I went 40 backup, 20 initial, 40 backup. Went through the rest of the list, emailed everybody, said, do you want a kit? And I eventually got the 20 kits sold. So I was really disappointed by that. And there's a thread on, at least it's in the One Case Tool post. I was really kind of upset about that because this took a lot of work to get going, and there were people that just weren't, you know, that had committed to it but then hadn't committed to it, and I got upset about that. So okay, I understand that that's reality, but that also means that it's really difficult to bring a tool to market. And if there's something that's multiple moving parts, like a seal puller, and I'm now out. It must be thousands because on just this stupid project because Kelby hasn't talked to me in 4 months. I don't know what's going on there. So literally all of my taps are out in Ohio somewhere, and I really have no idea what's going on. Ken, I think I've seen Brad Snelling use that tool on like an 026. Is that the one? It essentially goes in, and then it spreads, and then it lifts the seal straight out. Is that the one? Yeah, so Ken, your shop is like mine. It's really ugly, but it actually works for me. Weird. And I actually have things better organized in here than you might think. Sliding reverse jaws, yeah. So somehow you'd have to like crank it down, have it do this, and then crank it down in another way and have it effectively pull up. I don't know. 11 people. Who's on? Can't be just Ken Tim talking. Not that I mind you guys talking. We were just talking potential other tools that I could help bring to market. Anybody's welcome to comment. Right, yeah, you'd have to. Am I giving out measurements? Well, this is 6.5 inches long. It's 5/8 tube, and this outer diameter has to fit inside of a 19 millimeter seal pocket. There's a keyway. This keyway has to be big enough for a 3/8 threaded rod. Do you need more dimensions than that? So the design is, I'm not giving out blueprints of the design because I don't have them. So if anybody asks me for blueprints, I think you're being rude, number one. But number two, I don't have them, so I can't give you blueprints. Um, the design is free. I have not patented it. There's no patent on this for a number of reasons. Number one, it's such a pain to produce. There's nobody that's going to take it. It's a pain. If I had an easy time making these things, I would have tons in stock. I don't. So, hey Jimmy, show more shed tomorrow. Okay, filter. So there's, but back to this point because I think it's really relevant. So I don't have a patent on this. You're welcome to copy this design, but no, I'm not giving you all the dimensions of everything. I mean, it's not hard to figure out. You just figure out what thread sizes you need, and you know, this is a 7-inch long rod. Whoop-de-doo. You can look at my videos and figure out exactly what I'm doing. It's not that difficult. It's a matter of getting the taps that you need. So in order to actually get all the taps, it's weeks to wait from China for the taps, and that's assuming you're getting them at a reasonable price. And it might actually cost you just as much for all the taps that you need to come up with my kit as it is to buy the whole kit from me in the first place. So, you know, if you want to make them yourself, go crazy. You're not hurting my feelings. Most people that I've met, and after seeing all the videos, they decide, you know, it's just not worth it. I've had other people actually say, you know, I made my own tools. It wasn't worth it. Oh yeah, Husky has the mass-produced design. You know, they have their own shop tools. I made these because I saw the limitations of the Husky tools, and I figured that there would be a niche here, and there is. Is it that big of a niche? No, it's not. Overall, I figured when I started this, I was like, maybe there's 1,000 people worldwide that could really need this. And I think that's about right. 1,000, maybe 2,000 people that would actually want, over the whole planet, that would actually want something like this and say, yeah, I'll buy that from you. So the shops around me don't do any rebuilds. Even though I've showed them this, they're not interested. Thanks, Jimmy. And yes, I'll try to show more shed. Sean, you might have taps, but the correct ones you probably don't have. Most machine shops don't have the correct taps. So it just depends on what saw you're trying to, what saw are you working on? Are you working on a 394? If you're working on a 394, the clutch side is M12 by 1.25 left-hand thread. Your machine shop, if you have a local machine shop, probably doesn't have it. You have to order that from China. Or you can order, I think, from McMaster. It's going to cost you $50 to $80 just for that tap. Right, there's M10 by 1, which is used for the flywheel side on some of the bigger saws like a 660. But some saws use M10, I forget which, I think it's the smaller steels. The smaller steels actually use M10 by 1.0 left-hand thread for the clutch side. Where are you going to find that tab? You gotta order it from China. So you start having to order this assortment, and you wait weeks for it. I've ordered all these. It's a pain. I've done this for, how long have I been doing this, guys? PTO side on a 660 is M12 by 1.0 left hand. I'm going to have, I should have 660 specific kits in stock this week. So a 660 specific kit would be a rod, M10 by 1.0 right hand for the flywheel, M12 by 1.0 left hand for the clutch, and then the hole here, a large sleeve, the threaded rod that goes in here or a bolt, whatever, the nut and washer. The full kit is $60 shipped. I'm in Farmington, Connecticut. Yeah, Tim, it's a good point. There are all kinds of ways to pull seals, and it doesn't necessarily mean an expensive puller. So you're trying to justify creating a new tool and then undercutting steel or whatever. I don't know. From a business decision, that's kind of hard. Um, I I would love it. Like if I could literally get into making some tools for chainsaws, and and that would actually be a good business deal. I'm all for it. I'm just kind of wary of that, especially after I've done what I've done with these tools. Yeah, thanks, Sean. Good deal. Yeah, I think it's a good deal. I think there are people that have tried to make these kits, even the simple kits, by themselves, and they found it's hard. When I originally made these, I was literally drilling and tapping here in my basement, and it was not easy. I had a hell of a time doing it. Yeah, if I like making my own stuff too. I get it. So if you're the type of guy that has to make your own, um, I'll just say this: when you get frustrated, let me know. You'll break out your wallet. It'll just happen. It's okay. Don't feel bad. Well, yeah. If you can, if you see, I don't know if you saw my setup from earlier, um, with the chop saw. I had blocks of wood and just once I got everything together, it just went together really quick. But what's the OD on the small end? Sean? Which tool are you referring to? The 660 tool? Again, the 660. It took me a long time to figure this out. So you're gonna. I don't mind telling you, but keep in mind it took me a long time to figure this out. This was a pain because this is a system that goes together, and figuring out the system of what goes with what was some trials and tribulations. But the on a 660, if you have a 660 specific tool, that's a 3/4 inch rod. The skinny end on the large sleeve needs to fit inside a 22 millimeter diameter seal pocket. So it has a 6203 bearing, effectively on both sides. The PTO side is a proprietary bearing, but it's a 6203 bearing. The seal pocket is 22 millimeters. What does that translate to? 840 thousandths? I forget. You can do the math. Um, if this is a 750 inner diameter, the wall thickness here is 55 or 60 thousandths wall thickness. Does that help? Yeah, this butts up against the inner race, which is the whole idea. It is cheaper to buy tools than the factory tools. Yes, I know. cheaper to buy my stuff. And I think they're better. I think they're better for all kinds of different reasons. Yeah, I think it opens the hobby to all kinds of people. That's a great point. I think also the kit saws have really opened the hobby in a huge way. That the whole kit saw craze has just opened everything up to just all kinds of piles of random people. Those people over there have got to be going berserk selling all those kits. I think that's crazy. There's all kinds of arguments on both sides of that. And I think they're both relevant. One of them is simply that the Chinese have a copy machine over there as opposed to an engineering team. But on the other hand, you've got Husky and Steel. They're not in the parts business. They don't want to be in the parts business. They want to be in the selling saws business. And most of the tree guys don't want to be jerking around with rebuilds. They want something to cut, and if it stops cutting, they show up at the dealership, plunk it down, and say, "Give me a new one." Right? That if you're a really busy tree guy, you might be doing that pretty often. Some guys are making a living selling kit saws. I have no idea how they're doing that because I've had enough experience selling enough saws to understand that bad things happen. And if you're trying to sell a kit saw, exactly how much profit are you getting out of that? Maybe $100, maybe $200. I mean, if you're making $500 profit, more power to you, but I don't think so. If you're making $100, $200 profit and it takes you hours to assemble the darn thing, and then it blows up for whatever reason, either because you assembled it wrong or because a part failed. Maybe the part failed. Who's eating all of that? So, I say on the back of my t-shirt, as is. So if the terms are as is, well, then guess what? You're not eating that. The customer's eating that, and they're just going to be pissed. So then there goes your business of selling saws, Even if you made the contract terms as is, they can still, they're at liberty to be upset. I don't agree with that, but I'm sure a lot of people do. I think the cases are pretty good. I think the kit cases are pretty good. Me too, engineering. 660s with a Hoosel mill for $13.99. If he can get that kind of money, that's awesome. I mean, is he putting the damn thing together from a straight kit, or is he doing the necessary modifications? I don't know. You have a mill craze. I think people that chainsaw mill need to have their heads checked. I've done enough of it to be like, ugh. I understand that there are certain advantages to chainsaw milling in certain cases, but holy cow, it's a lot of work, and I'm sure it can be really rewarding. Get a couple of, maybe a double ender or whatever, a couple of really big bar, nice big log. You're pulling off slabs that are worth a few grand. Okay, but guys that are doing it just to make lumber, I can't see it. I can't see it. What's my little guy doing? Yeah, $50 an hour, sure. I mean, the saws get, but at that kind of money, why are you not getting a rebuilt, a fully nicely rebuilt OEM saw? Really? $13.99? If chainsaw milling is all that you know, then that it might make sense in somebody's world. But if you've used a bandsaw mill, and mine's a cheap one. I mean, really, I have a fairly inexpensive bandsaw mill. That thing's fun. And it's just so much faster than the chainsaw mill. If you're making dimensional lumber, that is the ticket. But yeah, $13.99 for a kit saw, I don't see it. If you can get it, more power to you. Yeah, 13.99 CAD. So the Canadian dollar obviously has its issues compared to the U.S. dollar, and also up there you might be dealing with availability. You know, Australia, I'm sure is excuse me. I'm sure Australia is going completely nuts because the availability of chainsaws down there is, you know, there was a couple of grand for a Husky 395 down there. Oh man, it's awful. So some of the prices are just uh, completely not in the realm of reality. Did I mill the shed lumber? Yeah, about 90% of that shed is milled lumber. It's a 16 by 16 shed with 10-foot walls. Um, it's got an 18 and a half foot ridge beam. That was fun. That was a really big log. Actually, that log was a disappointment. It was one of the biggest logs I've ever had on the mill. It was 18 and a half feet long, you know, perfectly straight. It took me, I got it from across the street from me. It was a hemlock from across the street. And they brought it over with a bobcat and dumped it on my front lawn. Okay, well, how am I going to move an 18 and a half foot log that's, you know, took me 6 hours to move it from my front yard 75 feet into my backyard. At the time, it was completely insane. Um, but I got it on the mill. I got a 4-inch thick, 13-inch wide beam. It was gorgeous. 18 and a half feet long. That actually I put on my lumber rack, came back to it the next year, it twisted. The whole thing corkscrewed on me. Can't use that. The other piece that I pulled off, that I was not necessarily expecting to use, was a 2 by 13, and it ended up being a really nice ridge beam. Yeah, some guys, you know, want their bling, they want their fastest stuff. I mean, I do. I want the fastest chainsaws in the neighborhood. Um, I probably don't have the fastest chainsaw. I don't have the fastest chainsaws in the state. I'm pretty sure of that. But if they're pretty good, then I'm really quite happy with that. Do I want the best? Sure, but am I gonna get it? Again, flywheel side on the 660, M10 by 1.0, right hand thread. Like I said, when you get frustrated, let me know. I'm really excited because I think within the next week or so, I'm going to be having stock. And the people that are on the list do have first dibs of the stock, but I'm going to have something here probably within a week. And then I'm going to have good stock here a few weeks from now. That's coming. Very exciting. Same on a 394. Yes, but the PTO side on a 394 is M12 by 1.25. The guy out west. Which guy gets 500 bucks for a Woods port job? Is that the hot sauce guy or with the Walker? Because I know Mastermind doesn't get that. I think he gets 300 for his port work. Sanitized, yeah. Yeah, Mastermind has been known to be pretty inexpensive. For what he does, 300 is cheap, and that's why he stays insanely busy. I think Tree Monkey is the same price. I think it's somewhere around 300. Hey, Robert. How's the 360 running? I didn't like mine. It was like, eh. I could have done without it type of thing. It just wasn't that exciting. The 660 I do use. I built a couple. One of them, my tree guy buddy Steve does actually use. So I do think the 660s are a great bang for buck. Man, I thought this was going to be a short chat. Jeez, 13 people here now. Would I say what, Tim? No, I have a hard time wiping any smile off my face. Hot Saw? Sanitized? Hot Saw 101, that guy? Yeah. If you can get 500 bucks for a port job, I mean, that's awesome. God bless. Something blows up. Ugh. Somebody's gonna be pissed. Plus, you know, I don't have, you know, my personal experience so far with doing port jobs and whatnot. One thing that I've experienced was, I think my first port job ever was my 385. I don't remember. I think it was the 385. It worked good for a number of years. It hooked a ring. Eventually, it hooked a ring on the exhaust. I just snagged, and that was that. So I have the 385 that I built right here, and the reason is because I went to rebuild it. I put a new, even though it snagged a ring, I put a new head on it, and I think I did new bearings, put it all back together, and I didn't modify it at all. It's got a pristine head, brand new, I think it's a 390 head, and sent it out to have it beat up. And not too long ago, it got ran over. Somebody actually used it as a wheel chock. So here it is again in my shop, and I had to change out the crankcases, among other things. All kinds of other stuff got broke on it. The head was perfect. Amazingly, the head was perfect. So I've changed out a bunch of stuff on it. I'm waiting for a few other parts. But there are so many other fates that befall chainsaws, especially ones that work every day, that sometimes modifying them isn't worth it. You know, to say, was it worth all that time when something's just going to get run over? No. Is it worth spending all that kind of time when something's just going to get thrown around? I don't think so. All the tree guys don't care anyway. It's like, oh, is it ported? Okay, good. Okay, it's not ported? Okay, fine. Does it run? Yeah. Okay, good enough. Ken, yeah, you know, is it worth hopping up? Probably by the right guy. The guy for the 036s is Doc Al. DRF 256. So DRF 256 on OPE. Doc Al knows a lot about those. I don't think he's taking work, but if you can get him to do it. $650 for a Woodsport? Ken, whenever I see stuff that I don't want, guess what I do? I say, no, 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 no. If I see a Steel 009, I say, no, 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 no. A 201. These days, if it's not something I've worked on before, you can probably forget it. Am I a full-time saw mechanic? No, I'm a dentist. Or at least I was until a couple months ago. So I'm right now I'm looking for work. So I'm going to get back in the dental field here. But I was a dentist for 12 years, basically part-time. So now I'm just looking to get back into the dental field. And when I do, obviously a lot of this is going to go goodbye-bye. But who knows when that's going to be. Hey, Craig. Yeah, I understand it's hard to say no to cash, but it just is never worth it. I mean, is it really worth it to work on those things? Yeah, I tell everybody, Sean, I tell everybody I finished the 21st grade. So I've been through 21 grades. Technically, I skipped 12. Uh, I didn't do my senior year in high school. I went right to college instead. But for all intents and purposes, I've been through 21 grades. So, Craig, the lineup tonight, actually, this wasn't supposed to be this long. I was not expecting to chat for like nearly an hour. Um, it, I actually spent my day, a good portion of the day, cutting blanks for the tools. And just to reiterate, well, we have 16 people here. This is crazy. Um, just to reiterate, very exciting. I have good stock on my sleeves now. All I'm doing is waiting on the rods for the tools. So I spent today cutting the blanks. I talked to the machinist tonight. We have, I'm going to deliver these tomorrow to them, and it's about 2 weeks out to get on the docket to get these done. But he can squeeze a few in short term, so within a week I will have some stock on toolkits. Whoever is on the list already will get first dibs. What's the rod? No, this is 3/4. Just so you know, 5/8 rod is used. I used it for the flywheel side. But you start running into issues with 5/8 rod as far as diameters go. Just so you know, it's going to get frustrating. 61 Husky. I have the rods for 61 Husky already. The 61 Husky uses a 1/2 inch UNC left hand, and what I did was, just to make it interesting, I paired that with the other end of the rod is actually for a 661, a steel 661, which is M13 by 1.0. So that's what I consider a specialty rod, and I'm pretty sure I do have stock on those still. Most people are not buying the specialty rods unless they buy a kit, or them with a kit, rather. Complete power head in need of a top end. You sure it doesn't need bearings and seals? Craig, do you have the 576 kit? Because I have the 576 kit that Kelby made. The 576 is unique on the flywheel. No, sorry, excuse me. The 576 is unique on the clutch side. It uses M15 by 1.25 left hand instead of M14, which is 372 uses. $41 and $51. You have the rod. Okay, good. Just so you know, it's a little short. It's a tad short, so there's a couple of options. You can actually shorten your, if need be, you can cut a little bit off the sleeve. Just take 1/8 of an inch off the sleeve. Or, it's probably like the best option. Eventually I'm going to get these new guys to make longer rods. Kelby and I guessed as far as the length that the 576 rod needed to be. The 576 was unique because the M15 thread doesn't fit inside of threaded rod. You need to have a blank. So a 3/4 inch blank, and then it does fit inside. So imagine if there's no outer threads, M15 will fit in there. So you need to have a blank. Anyway, we had to figure that out. It was a pain in the neck. Yeah, I don't have the tap drill sizes memorized. I do have at least most of the threads on most of these saws memorized at this point. Trying to think of like what a Husky 51 would be. I gotta assume the 50, 55, 50, 51 is all the same as a 262 XP, which I think is M10 by 1.5, but left hand, but I don't remember. $15 people here still, and I'm just talking. No particular agenda tonight other than just saying that the tools are really progressing, which is awesome. $16 people here now. Who's here? Who showed up? I feel bad for anybody gonna have to go back through all this. My dad had a Homelite 750, owned it since new. We sold it and bought a welder instead. Very happy with that. The 750 is a collector's saw. What kind of rod? Threaded rod? Just all thread. I mean, you can get this down at the depot. You know, if you talk to an engineer, they'll look at this and say, oh, you need Acme thread. For this application, you don't. You don't need Acme square thread. You'd, believe me, this is plenty robust for pulling a crank through a bearing. Other questions, comments, anything, guys? I'm tempted. Just I'm tired. I need to go to bed. Do you lube the threads? You can. Not necessarily. I mean, it doesn't. You don't really need to. What you can do is, because I include a washer, you can put a little bit of grease on there just to make it slip. But even if you put the nut directly against the aluminum, eventually it'll gall. But there's just not that much wear that happens. There's so little force that. Well, you can stand on a Coke can, right? And that's like 4 thousandths thick. That's 50, 55, 60 thousandths wall thickness on there. It's really heavy. And I haven't done the torque calculation to see what like a 6203 takes to crank to get through the 6203. It isn't much. Just do it like by hand. I can't imagine that's more than 10 or 20 foot-pounds. So the 660 flywheel side can be put on the same rod. Yes, on the 660. Um, yeah. John Street 49. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar. Three-piece thrust bearing. Three-piece thrust bearing. What was I going to say? Yeah, the 660 kind of actually it wasn't the 660. It was the 440 that really messed everything up for me in the kit, because I was really aiming to put everything on one sleeve, and now I have three sleeves. The 880 sleeve is a different animal because Steel, for some reason, in infinite wisdom, decided to use a proprietary huge bearing on that saw. So we're going to set the 880 aside. But I was trying to get everything on the what I consider the large sleeve, the 3/4 inch ID sleeve. You can't do that. It's not possible. Um, and I toyed around originally with making a single piece and then adapters. And as it turns out, it's actually cheaper machining wise to have multiple different sleeves. So anyway, the 440 messed everything up because the 440 has a 19 millimeter seal pocket. It's probably the smallest seal pocket that I know of, and it's on the flywheel side. So in order to do that, 19 millimeter and 3/4 are roughly equivalent. In order to have something that fits on a 19 millimeter seal pocket, you have to have a outer diameter less than 19 millimeters. So you're going to have a negative wall thickness on that. You can't do that. So you needed to have a smaller flywheel side rod, and therefore essentially a different sleeve. So this small sleeve, do not use this on big saws. I've had a couple of guys mushroom this already. They put this on a 6203 bearing. No, don't do that. Small sleeve, small bearings. Anyway, the 440 19 millimeter seal pocket, this fits inside a 19 millimeter seal pocket. Does that make sense? That kind of was what messed me up. Ken, you're just weird. Don't worry about it. You know, you're just weird. Poisoned, weird, whatever. Same ID. The 372 setup uses the same thing. It uses the large sleeve with a 3/4 inch rod, but the rod is different. The video is unavailable. Wait a minute. What happened? Can everybody see me? Anyway, um, so a 372 rod. Let me make sure this is still going. Yeah, I'm still live. Okay. You can see. Okay. So a 372 specific rod has an M8 by 1.0 right hand thread for the flywheel side on a 3/4 inch rod, and an M14 by 1.25 left hand thread on the other side. That all goes perfectly in a large sleeve. You do not need the small sleeve. The problem with the saw specific kits is that if you end up getting a full kit or want to do something else, the whole specific kit becomes redundant effectively. The whole rod becomes redundant. Um, because I have everything else accounted for on the main kit. Does that make sense? Let me try to restart this here. Keep getting an error. Try again. There was a problem with the network. No, there's no problem with the network. Let me just restart this real quick. Now I can't see anybody. Let me turn this around and I can at least take questions. Sorry, guys. It's working? Yeah, okay. So I can still take questions. The rod on the 372 is still 3/4 rod. Again, as I was formulating this, I was really hoping to have everything be 3/4 rod. But it just doesn't work out that way, mostly because of the steel 440. At least in my opinion, that kind of messed everything up. And I've had it suggested to make, one keyway type of sleeve and then multiple adapters for whatever different size. There's no point. Just make a sleeve for whatever application you've got. And my other saw here is not playing nice. My other phone, rather. So the 660 specific kit is $60 shipped to the United States. If you're in London, it's like an additional $25. If you're in Australia, it's $35. The shipping is not cheap internationally. Other questions? Comments, suggestions, anything? Holy cow, been on for an hour? Craig has a vested interest here. Sort of. Hang on. I'm trying to bring the chat up. Robert, you just email me. I'm trying to bring up my other phone here so I can actually chat, but for whatever reason, I'm having a hard time doing that. Let me see if I can chat here. No, I don't want to report you, Robert. Hang on a second. I don't know how I can friggin' chat. My other phone won't open YouTube. I keep getting an error. I'll restart it again in hopes that it comes back. So yeah, you can just email me. Robert, if you want to take down my email, it's actually, let me write it down to be better, right? Let me write it down. Hang on a second. Why do I have paper down here? There's no paper. mattyo5 at AOL.com. The O is letter O, not a number. So I'm Mattio. I like the number 5, and I'm at AOL.com. That good? You guys good? Okay. There, that's how you contact me. Just shoot me an email, and I'll eventually get to you. Hopefully YouTube works now. Come on, bring me up. Beam me up, Scotty. Beam me up something. Nope. It ain't working. Does that help, Robert? Okay, good. I think it's a slick tool too, Craig. I really do. I've been really happy just getting to know all kinds of people that have used it, and I really love it. And I use them fairly regular too, so and I go through withdrawal if I don't have them. So I gotta make one or whatever. I gotta use it. So I better call it a night. I don't know why I can't get this stupid thing to work on my other phone, but I'll call it a night, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow or something like that. Hopefully I'll have something to do. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. You guys have a good night. Good night, y'all.